Wanted to make a quick tutorial on what I found was a common issue with LG front-loading washers. We had an issue where every time we ran it, we would have water pooling up right in this general area. Now, anytime you have water leaking from a washer, there's always a few standard things to check. On most front-loading washers, you'll find it clean out. I'm not going to go over how to maintain that because you should know it, but that's actually part of your discharge pump. And so if you have water coming from the front, it can be an issue related to the hoses or the seals or the pump housing itself. Another thing to check when you have water leaking towards the front of a machine is the boot that seals the door to the drum. Next thing to check are your water connections on both the wall side and the machine side. For us, the water would leak only while the machine was operating, so we know it's not something related to that. While inspecting the rear of the machine, I noticed some water stains coming from the bottom of this vent here, and that shouldn't be happening. Taking this rear access panel off, 4 screws, and once I did that, I could see a drip of water on the inside of the machine up high, and that tells me that the water's coming from most likely the inlet valve. So to start this repair, we're going to take off 2 screws that hold the top of the machine on. Once they're off, you just slide it straight back and it will come off. With the parts exposed, we can start to inspect where we believe our issue is. And right off the bat here, you can see some moisture there. You can actually see rust. It's been leaking for a while. We will take the time to check other parts, other hoses, look down by that pump, just check everywhere else to see if there's any signs of water, but fairly certain here for this job, our only issue is that inlet valve. Just to be 100% certain, I'm going to run a cycle quickly just to watch and make sure that that's the only place water is coming from. Of course, when you're doing this, you're still powered up, parts are moving, so use caution if you're going to test like this because you can get hurt. Here we see that water starting to drip again. So we know what the deal is, let's get it fixed. We're going to start by turning off the water and unplugging the machine. Next, we're going to disconnect the hose from the back of the machine itself. To be extra safe, and while you're in there, you can change the hot water valve. I know my problem's only on the cold side, so I'm only going to change that one. With the hose off, we're going to disconnect the harnesses, 3 little harnesses here, off of the solenoids. Once they are off, you will take a pair of pliers. There are these little pinch rings or pinch clamps that hold the hoses on. You'll take those and slide them back and then pull the hoses off. Once you've done that, there's only 2 screws that hold this entire assembly on. This part was $15 on Amazon. So to go back to the reason for this video, not quite sure how much a service call would be. I've never called anyone for service, but this is 20 minutes worth of work and with a $15 part. With the valve assembly in place, go ahead and reconnect your hoses and your clamps and your harnesses back the way they were. If you can, fit those clamps in the same grooves that they were in, just to keep that seal nice and tight. Before you connect your supply, just make sure that washer is good so that you don't have any seal issues. And before we test, I'm going to dry everything off. Might have been a better idea to put a towel there ahead of time, but I want to just get all the water off now so that when we test, we can really make sure that there's no water coming from anywhere. Turn the water back on, and the first thing we check is the connection at the inlet valve itself. No water showing here, no water leaking out of the back, so we know that those connections are good. Before putting everything back together, I'm going to run a cycle quickly, let it go through, and double check that there's no water coming from anywhere. I had wanted to end this with the sound of the water running and a visual of all the parts staying dry, but if your house is anything like mine, this is what you get. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope that if you're nervous about doing this kind of repair, that you can see just how easy it is and, of course, save some money.